Ever wished you could just hop in a time machine and rewrite history? Or maybe just, sneak a peek at the dinosaurs? Really? Well, today's deep dive takes us into the world of Timeless, where those what-ifs get seriously real.
That's right.
We're diving into the beginning of Timeless, chapters 1 through 5.
Yeah, really where we see the setup for this whole adventure through time.
We're joining Dr. Sophia Patel. She's a historian with a knack for uncovering ancient secrets, and Dr. Henry Lee, a physicist who'd much rather stick to the known laws of time.
And what's so fascinating about Timeless is that it doesn't shy away from those big questions, right? Can we change the past without unraveling the future? Like, who gets to decide what moments in history are off limits?
Right, who's in charge of time?
Exactly. And it's a fictional story, sure. But the dilemmas they face, those feel, I don't know, incredibly relevant to me.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about this invention. It's not your typical time machine, is it?
Not at all. No, no. Instead of some souped-up DeLorean, Sophia stumbles upon these, blueprints for something called the chronal accelerator, a device that combines ancient knowledge with modern technology. It's like, imagine trying to explain a microchip to someone from ancient Egypt. That's the kind of leap we're talking about.
Okay, now my head is spinning. So how does this thing even work? Is it all pyramids and lasers, or?
I wish it were that straightforward. The story gets into some pretty complex physics, especially with this idea of branching timelines. Imagine like every decision, every moment, creating a split in time, a new branch of reality.
Okay, I'm following you.
That's what the chronal accelerator is supposed to do. Create a safe branch where changes don't disrupt our main timeline.
So a safety net of sorts. But even with this fancy chronal accelerator, Sophia and Henry, they still run into some serious ethical dilemmas right from their very first jump.
Yeah, and they go big for their first trip. They choose ancient Egypt.
Of course, who wouldn't want to see the pyramids being built firsthand?
Right, but they quickly realize that being a fly on the wall of history, it's not as easy as they thought.
Because they stumble upon a situation that challenges everything they thought they knew about, non-interference.
Exactly. In Chapter 2, they encounter Ani, this young man who's falsely accused of treason. And Sophia, driven by her empathy, she feels this, pull to help.
That's where the story really starts to dig into the big what-ifs, right?
Yeah.
If you had the power to change someone's fate, would you? Even knowing it could have unforeseen consequences down the line.
It's like the classic time traveler's dilemma. And Timeless does not let Sophia and Henry off the hook easily. Their decision to save Ani introduces this concept of temporal resonance.
Okay.
Imagine their actions creating these ripples that spread through time, leading to these unexpected and potentially disastrous outcomes.
So they've stirred up the time stream, saving Ani, and who knows what kind of temporal ripples they've set in motion. So what happens next? Do they try to, fix things? Or just keep hopping through time like nothing happened?
Well, that's where the timekeepers come in. They're like, the temporal cleanup crew, dedicated to maintaining order across time. And they are not happy with Sophia and Henry's little intervention.
Oh, this is where things get really interesting, because up until now, it's just been Sophia and Henry, right?
Right.
A historian and a physicist playing with fire.
Yeah.
But the timekeepers, they add a whole new level of complexity. Tell me more about these guardians of time.
Well, they're shrouded in mystery, but it's clear they wield immense power.
Yeah.
And they have a very different view of time travel. See, Sophia and Henry, they see it as a chance to explore.
Right.
To maybe even set things right. But the timekeepers, they see it as a threat to the natural order.
Which makes sense in a way, right? Like time travel on a large scale
Right.
could lead to utter chaos.
For sure.
But it also raises questions about who gets to make those rules.
Yeah.
Who decides what history should look like.
Exactly. And the timekeepers, as much as they believe they're protecting the time stream, their presence introduces this, unsettling element of control. Like, are they benevolent protectors or something a bit more sinister? And that's a question that Sophia and Henry wrestle with throughout the story.
So what happens when the timekeepers confront Sophia and Henry? It sounds like a showdown is brewing.
Yeah, you could say that. The timekeepers, they give them a stark ultimatum. Surrender the chronal accelerator and submit to their authority, or face the consequences. Talk about a pressure cooker.
I bet. So what do? They're not the type to just give up, are they?
You're right, they're not. Instead of surrendering, they make a daring escape back into the time stream. But remember those ripples we talked about? Those ripples, yeah, they start to cause some serious disruptions in the timeline. It's like a temporal earthquake, and
Right.
our heroes are right at the epicenter.
Okay, so they went rogue, and now the timeline is freaking out. This is why we can't have nice things.
Pretty much. And to make matters worse, their escape has some unforeseen consequences. Remember Ani?
The young man they saved in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it turns out altering his fate has had a ripple effect.
Oh no. This is what always gets me about time travel stories. Good intentions, but you just never know how even the smallest change can snowball into something much bigger.
It's the butterfly effect in action. Because they saved Ani, his life took a radically different path. And let's just say he becomes a powerful figure, but not necessarily a force for good. Sophia and Henry are faced with this horrifying possibility that they've inadvertently created a tyrant.
Wow, that's heavy. It really makes you think about the responsibility that comes with even, like, considering time travel.
It does.
But it sounds like Sophia and Henry are only just beginning to understand the true weight of their actions.
It's a journey of discovery, that's for sure. And just when they think things can't get any more complicated, they stumble upon this shocking truth about the timekeepers themselves.
Okay, now I have to know. What's the big reveal about these, like, enigmatic guardians of time?
This is where Timeless takes a fascinating turn. It's revealed that the timekeepers aren't just some cold, objective force. They have a deeply personal stake in protecting the timeline. It turns out they're not just an organization, they're trying to prevent a future where something terrible happens. A future they believe was caused by the widespread use of time travel.
Whoa. So the timekeepers are trying to prevent a future caused by themselves. That's a mind-bending paradox.
Exactly, and it throws everything we thought we knew about them into question. They're not just enforcing some abstract rulebook, they're trying to avert a disaster, a future they've witnessed firsthand.
Okay, so the stakes just got a whole lot higher. What kind of future are they so desperate to prevent?
They've seen what happens when time travel becomes commonplace, and it's not pretty. Imagine a world where anyone can go back and change their past, right their wrongs, even reshape historical events to their liking. It's like the ultimate power fantasy.
Right.
But as Timeless chillingly illustrates, it's a fantasy that could easily become a nightmare.
So the timekeepers have seen a future where time travel runs rampant.
Yeah.
And it's enough to make them dedicate their entire existence to preventing it. I can't even imagine what kind of chaos they must have witnessed.
Imagine a world where every personal tragedy, every historical injustice could be undone with the push of a button. It sounds tempting at first, right?
Right, yeah.
But the timekeepers have seen firsthand how quickly that kind of power can corrupt,
Right.
how easily it can fracture the very fabric of reality.
Okay, now I'm really starting to understand their sense of urgency. It's not about control for its own sake,
Mm-hmm.
but preventing something far, far worse.
Yeah.
But where does that leave Sophia and Henry? Are they on, like, the same side as the timekeepers now, or?
That's the question that drives the final chapters of Timeless, and it's a real nail-biter. Sophia, with her historian's heart, she still wants to believe in the possibility of using time travel for good.
Right.
But can she ignore the chilling vision that the timekeepers have shared?
And Henry, always the pragmatist. He must be facing some serious internal conflict as well.
Oh, absolutely.
He dedicated his life to, like, pushing the boundaries of physics.
Yeah,
But now he's confronted with the possibility that some lines shouldn't be crossed.
exactly. And the weight of their decisions, the potential consequences of their actions, it's all laid bare. They're forced to confront the possibility that maybe the timekeepers aren't the villains in this story,
Oh, wow.
but people driven to these extreme measures by a tragedy they're desperate to prevent.
Wow, what a twist. So what happens? Do they side with the timekeepers? Or do they try to find another way? A way to use the chronal accelerator for good without unleashing temporal chaos?
Well, I don't want to spoil the ending for our listener.
Right.
But let's just say that Timeless leaves you with more questions than answers, which is exactly what good science fiction should do.
It should make you think.
Right. It challenges you to think about the nature of time, the consequences of our actions, and, that very human desire to rewrite the past.
It sounds like Timeless is more than just a, fun adventure through history. It's a story that really makes you think.
Absolutely. And, that's what makes time travel such a compelling concept for storytelling. It forces us to confront our own desires, our regrets, our ideas about fate and free will. If you could go back and change things, would you? What would that even look like?
It's a question worth pondering. So for our listeners out there, if you ever find yourself, daydreaming about changing the past, remember the lessons of timeless.
Right.
The past might be a foreign country, but it shaped the world we live in.
Yeah.
And meddling with it can have consequences far beyond what we can imagine.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish the last page, prompting you to ask yourself, what would I do if I had the power to change time? And at what cost?
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving into Timeless with me today.
It's been my pleasure.